Hello guys, how you doing? This is Heka, and today we're going to make the video about some of the articles that I have read, but I'm going to reread it again for you guys. Now back years back, I kind of loved the idea of creating a game, and that's because I've been playing games since I was like 5 years old, and got introduced about MMO when I was like, I don't know, I think it was 12 or something like that, when I heard the idea of the MMO from college, but I couldn't get into college because I was 12, and then it would have cost too much to play those games. But the only the game times that you get to play those games are in college. And then later on, it was introduced. PC was introduced for family, and then um, pretty much the game started to come out, in CD, and then MMO started happening and all that. And I always had the idea and the thought of actually try to create games and stuff like that and being a dev and all that. But as I played the game for all these years, at one point I got caught up with things that made me feel that, I'm gonna do this for my whole life, and what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing are not things that I really want to do. Um, or want to face basically. Devs developing a game these years are a very hard thing. I mean, it's very stressful. That's what I mean by hard thing. It's very stressful. Sometimes it'll get to the point where you might even quit being a developer. So today, I'm gonna read more about something that always caught my eye, because I always try to understand why things happen this way and why things happen that way. Hell, when I get into a forum, I get to study about the whole thing. Like in some of the forums, I'm already like page 17, but I studied the thing one time completely. Then I studied again how the community acts, how the people act, how the developer are, admins, mod, GMs, all that stuff. I read all about it and to see how each game that I have played in their company does. There's another one that I'm actually reading, and it's called "How Much Money Can You Make from Free Browser Games." Now, I read like 6 articles. This is my 7th article, but we're not going to go over this one. We're going to go over this one right here, and it's called "We Own You: Confession of an Anonymous Free-to-Play Producer." Let's go. When it comes to the discussion surrounding free-to-play, people often focus on monetization tactic based on their experience as a player. Folks commonly get upset based on the disruption of the historical precedent that games should have a price tag that you pay, then get the game. And that's very true, because that's the console way, right? You pay and you get the game. It is understandable, and it is hard to be a savvy consumer when the value proposition is often so heavily distorted, making it supremely unclear how large the air quote around free really are. In actuality, that amongst the least gross thing about a giant free-to-play title from a huge developer, who have turned game design into modern-day factory farming, harvesting user data more aggressively than the worst PC spyware of the early 2000s, all to fuel the fire of selling as much IAP as possible. Now understand, back these days they use that kind of excuse. It's a free game. You're allowed to play the game for free. You don't have to pay. But then they try to nickel you here and there, and they try to push you into paying and making you stressful if you don't pay. Or these guys can do it very easily, and then you have to go through like hours of work in order to do what these guys could have done in second. Something very stressful, basically, to put you in the position that you have to pay. Now let's keep reading. The following article is the game developer I know for close to a decade now. To the best of my knowledge, from following iOS development since the launch of the App Store, it is totally accurate. I've heard similar things from developers who have also gone through the ropes of hopping from one game studio to the next. This is the first time I have actually convinced someone to write about it. I'm a senior producer at a free-to-play games company. I have worked for several of the big names companies. It is almost certain you have or are playing a game I have produced or work on in a major capacity. Freemium straight ahead. This isn't an article about the evil of free-to-play manipulation to get you to spend money. This is about how we can target you because we and our partners knows everything about you. We know where you live. We know your income level. We know your relationship, your favorite sports team, your political preference. We know when you go to work and where you work. We can target an event to start for you when we know you have a long weekend coming up. We own you. It didn't start this way. I was an original a console game producer. Layoff, mergers, and whatnot eventually got me to associate with mobile games. We were very on the early iPhone making, what you will call traditional games. 99-cent arcade titles, just like the ones you see in Kong games, and sometimes you see some of these in Steams. These games did very well. They were very reviewed nicely, and players generally loved us. We started working on a larger, more ambitious project. Our team and department was doing great. We had a game that had a whole bunch of level you could 1, 2, 3 star. This was still at least a year or two before Angry Birds. There was a concern, both with the team and the upper management, that if the game was too hard, it would not be successful. The only UR channel we had was app ranking and user review. Again, this was 2008. One of our engineers came up with a rather simple solution that today would seem like a joke. We could have a JSON file online that could contain all the level information. Then, we could update the files to make it level easier or harder. This way, we could watch user reaction, mostly on App Store review. Twitter was still pretty basic at this time. This worked great. We were able to balance the game in the wild. During a meeting about the game, the guy who ran our website brought up some interesting information. He started watching the web logs and seeing all the connections to the JSON file. Unbeknownst to him or our team, he was getting us a DAU. For the engineering and production teams, this was just a neat thing to know. It feel good. Look how many people love our game statistic. The CEO saw something else. Pretty quickly, we started getting more requests for what our users were doing. Upper management was disappointed by the lack of answer. I found a new service online called Pinch Media. They were an analytic tracker. I got the team to integrate Pinch into a few products, and finally I had answers. Of course, the more answers were asked. Wait, I think he meant, of course, then more questions were asked. Around this time, I keep forgetting that that's still there. Around this time, free-to-play started happening. Suddenly, marketing and our boss demanded to know more than ever. In response to the pressure to explain our user base, I ended up building an event matrix. I had no schooling in this, so I just making it up as I went along. My first matrix was awesome for the game developer. It was full of those cool stats like how far has the player run or how many bullets had he shot. But this did not impress my boss. They wanted to know how we could get the player to buy more stuff, tell his friend to play the game, and thus I learned about cohorts. All I wanted to do was make games. Time passed. Free to play became a thing. I went from company to company. Each time every new project became less and less about how we can do cool things and more about how we can track and target users to get most whales possible. Remember that video about the VPN whale? Go watch it. Boost charts, position, and retain user to shove as many ads on them as possible. All this already seems bad, but along the way, a major thing happened. Facebook. I forget when I did my first Facebook Require app, but it was a game changer. Facebook has changed how it worked over the years. Today you can quite get as much information easily as you could with the first API, but you still get a lot. We collect as much information about player as possible. Thanks to Facebook, we have a ton. Even users who didn't really use Facebook or filled it with fake data actually tell us a lot. You might not use Facebook, but your connection gives you away. If you play with friends or have a significant other who plays, we can see the same IP address and learn who are playing with. When we don't know information, we try to gather it in a game. Have you played a game with a different country flag? We use those to not only appeal to your nationalist pride, but to figure out where you are, or where you'd identify. Your IP address says you are in America, but you buy a virtual item featuring the flag of another country. We can start to figure out if you're on vacation or immigrated. Perhaps English is not your first language. We use all this to send you personalized push notification and show you store specials and item we think you will want. And if you are a whale, we take Facebook stalking to the whole new level. Now let me make sure, that this has been done and I'm AFK. You spend enough money, we will friend you. Now officially, but with a fake account. Maybe it's a hot girl who shows too much cleavage. That's us. We learn as much before friending you. But once you let us in, we have the keys to the kingdom. We will use everything to figure out how to sell to you. I remember we had a whale in one game that I loved American football despite living in Saudi Arabia. We built several custom virtual items in both his favorite team colors and their opponent, just to sell this one guy. You better believe he bought them. And these are just vanity items. We will flat out adjust a game to make it behave just like it did last time the person bought an IAP. Was the level too hard? Well, now they are the same difficulty. Every day, we collect tons of data. I don't even know the size of what we collect anymore. We have an entire division to instrument and analyze the data. These days, I just send over a basic question, and the team pulls the data and runs a query. No longer do we use off-the-shelf system like Flurry. Now it is all in-house. There was games a while back that generated something like 20 gigs of player data a day. Right now, another producer is keeping everything we can, and we are not alone. Normally, I implement 20 to 30 different 3D party SDK into a game. Some of these help us track event of crashes, some are ads network, other more demographic data. Silence down, Mr. Truck. Back to the game. Back to the article. All of these networks are gathering as much, if not more data on you, but yet they're all network. Let's say you're in some app that wants to know if you're a male or a female, and what age range you fall under. Well, that app shared the data with the ad network. Guess who else uses that same ad network? We do! Now we have that data, without even asking for it. Every time you play a free-to-play game, you just build this giant online database of who you are, who your friends are, and what like and don't like. This data is sold, bought, and traded between large companies I've worked for. You want to put a stop to this?
Stop playing free games. Buy a game for $4.99 or $9.99. We don't want to be making games like this, and we don't want another meeting about retention, cohort, or churn. Now, at one point, I did say something about throwing ads at you, and I didn't say I was going to go back to here, but I am forced now to go here. There has been a lot of noise about Kongregate finally accepting Unity 3D games, and they have. And it was a pain in the butt because I didn't want to accept it to download the software, so I left Kongregate, which is great. But how much money is there in free browser game? To share my limited experience, my 3 games of Woody.com have a total of just under 5,000 hits and have generated €5.26. I also found this link from October 2008. Quote, by contrast, only 1 or 2 developers within the Kongregate community earns $1,000 to $2,000 a month from ads. Ads. Some 5 to 10 of them earn roughly 500, while between 40 to 50 take a mere 100 each month. And that's a community about 2,500 developers. She does, however, admit that those numbers are on the rise. To me, this is very discouraging. If I were to expect to make a complex game that took a long time to develop and thus use that as my main source of income, I'd be discouraged. If I were to do a quick, simple game that took little to develop and thus use that as a small boost in income, I'd be happy. I actually love the 100 month once I am done working. Doing nothing and reaping those benefits will be awesome. Something what we call portfolio, or a portfolio income without doing any kind of work, just generated by itself. Of course, it would be 100,000 more awesome if I could actually live off of making browser game. That would be amazing. But €5 a month, that's not even worth submitting to the website. My question is this. Would you be better off selling the game for $1 or $2 somewhere else? Sometimes people don't even need to make a good game to sell it for $1. Which means if it's a good game, people would feel easy in buying it. Unless there aren't websites for that sort of thing. Several games on Kongregate are sponsored, which means the developer got paid to develop the game. Or the game also have a tip jar, which can be a source of additional revenue. Talking about size of a community doesn't matter as much as the quality of the community. Whether it is 2,500 or 25,000 really doesn't matter. How many of those developers are creating games with attract traffic? This is from ads alone. Ads alone. Repeat it one more time. This is from ads alone. Even from 100 a month, that is 1,200 a year from a game that once published, you don't have to touch. If you have 10 published games on several portals, Dime Rocket, Woogie, Kongregate, etc. What about Facebook? And all I did was earn money from ads. Oh yeah, it means selling, not quite. It's not developing because Facebook had their own development. No macros, transactions, subscription, etc. I estimate that I'll be doing pretty good. I think selling one-time purchase browser games are pretty difficult to do because I could just go to Kongregate and play games for free. These are usually casual or arcade, so trying to sell a casual browser game is going to be hard. If it was something with a subscription, you might be doing much better. Kongregate actually has a number of that was a period. You might be doing much better. Kongregate actually has a number of MMOs which use them as a gateway. I'm gonna stop right there. You can read the bottom if you want, but I'm gonna stop right there. Basically, it's the same thing as this one's saying, but actually generating more ads. Getting with MMO Hut, MMO Bomb. Actually, man, if I name it all, this video it's gonna take quite a long time, and you can even do it on Facebook as well. But going to each site that has a certain ad to promote your game, this is just pretty much generating some revenue, and at the same time, it's pretty much mostly and by highly generating a traffic into the game. So you be very careful about what games you play. I already learned my lesson for the last game, well, the last time in a game. You know, I thought of trusting, giving a chance one more time for a Chinese company, but this time that's the last straw. No more. Out of 12 of them, no more. And I play more than 12. This is just talking about browser. No more. No more trusting. This is going to be the end of this video because it's just an article. I'm going back to, well, obviously the game that I'm playing right now is AFK, and we have about still close to a month for August. August is coming. August 6th, no, August 1, 2016 is going to be the release of the Albion Online for the final beta test. You can see the previous video, previous video, to actually see the news about it. And I have let the link in the other video as well. So this is the thing I love to do. I love reading articles and I love sharing it. Have a wonderful day.